Welcome to the Startempire Wire Founders Podcast, where we make entrepreneurial founders a top priority. Each episode features risk takers, business builders, community shapers, institutional and government supporters in our local startup ecosystem. Tune in weekly to hear all about what's happening with the movers and the shakers of Southern California's Inland Empire and beyond. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Founders Podcast. Today, we are with someone very familiar to the entire Inland Empire ecosystem. Her name is Brenee Hendricks. But if you've never met her, today you get to meet her. I'm going to let Brenee go ahead and introduce herself, tell us a little bit about who she is, where she grew up, and then we'll get into it.
Sweet. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Various, for having me. I'm super excited to be here. For those of you that don't know me, I am Brenee Antoinette Hendricks, and I'm a multi-passionate creative. I am a lot of things, and I love a lot of things. My education, undergrad, was in creative arts, so interior design and architecture, but I've also been a stylist for a number of years. So I do fashion styling. I'm a wedding and event planner for almost 20 years this year. And right now I'm pursuing my master's in public administration. So I'm excited to be doing that. What else? I grew up in Inglewood, California. That's where I was born. Inglewood, always up to no good. And I have lived I've lived in the Inland Empire for the majority of my teenage and adult life. So I've lived in Rancho Cucamonga for many years now. So that's a little bit about me.
Sweet. So I was going to say, where did you grow up? What city? Inglewood. And then you grew up here in Rancho, right?
Yes.
So let me ask you, what brought you to the point in which you wanted to start being an entrepreneur? What happened there?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've always kind of been an entrepreneur. I had my first job when I was, I want to say like 7 years old. I went down to the hair salon at the end of the block where I lived and was like, hey, I will sweep, I will answer phones, I will wash the towels. And so I got paid $20 a week. I would go a couple of hours after school each day. Yeah. So I just always been kind of a hustler. I feel like, I wanted things and I knew that my parents couldn't always afford to provide them for me. So I was like, I'm gonna just do it myself.
Right. That's sweet. That's sweet. If I had a kid come up to me and ask me to do some work that I could give to him, like I do a lot of digital work, but still, man, $20 a week. Hey, here you go, kid.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, back in the, early 90s. Yeah, that $20 meant a lot. I was like, chocolate milk for everybody.
There you go. It's all on me. Yeah.
I got the back of this lunch line. Go ahead and put that on my that on my tab.
That would be like, I got 5 on it. I got 25 on it. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Well, I would say so. That's kind of where it started, but what kind of pushed me into the purpose of like where I am right now is just I've always had a passion for women and youth, educating and empowering and encouraging, and so I kind of built a brand and a business around this concept of adversity, but make it sparkle. So I try to teach people how to take what they're going through and thrive beyond it.
So tell us a little bit more. We know about Brenee, who is the community development manager at Fort Sector, but we don't know about your triumphs, what's happened. Just people I've read, a little bit, and I know you mentioned a few in the past, but give us a insight.
For sure. So, this year makes 12 years I'm a breast cancer survivor, and that definitely I always describe as like the greatest, most challenging blessing of my life, because it really showed me, I tell people all the time, like when you're bald and boobless, you got to figure out what really makes you beautiful, and that's usually what's on the inside, and our characters and our character and our values. And so I built my business. I was already doing different creative things. I've done everything from t-shirt lines to product lines and jewelry and accessories. And,
Wow.
I love fashion. So I've always kind of been in the fashion industry doing something or another.
Yes.
And I've always loved public speaking. So I
Okay.
used to do a lot of public speaking work, and all of these things kind of culminated. I mean, I was married and divorced young, had a child, had cancer, and all of these things all before 30.
Before 30.
So,
Wow.
Married, divorced, kid, all the things, breast
That's
cancer,
amazing.
yes, all before 30. And so I really had to teach myself what beauty truly means, and really teach myself that I'm beautiful, not in spite of my scars, but because of them. And it's truly made me who I am. And so that's kind of where I built the House of Antoinette and Miss Antoinette out of those concepts.
Okay. That's very awesome. Okay. So your startup meets a particular need, and it's more, I would consider motivational, but you probably would say more. So you can just tell us like the categories of what you would consider what you do.
Absolutely. So as a multi-passionate creative, there's a lot of things that I tap into. There's the psychological stylist side. So when I do style consulting, and it's fashion, it's interiors, and it's branding, I really try to get to the psychological aspects of why a person wants to change.
Okay.
So I'll give you a quick example. I've had a few male clients. One of my male clients wanted to change his style because he felt like he wasn't really fitting in with his friends.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. He's like, I don't have a bunch of Jordans. I don't have a bunch of this. I don't have a bunch of that. I don't feel like I fit in. And so I start going down the list of like, well, who are your friends and who are you? Well, your friends are all single. They're all, none of them have kids. None of them own businesses. And so what I kind of helped him understand is you're not called to fit in. You're called to stand out. And you've been doing that. So when I dress you, now I'm going to dress who you are on the inside. I'm not just changing your clothes. So that's the one side, right? It's
the fashion consultant, right?
Yeah, that and that goes with branding and all of that as well. So I do a lot of that kind of work. And so that I try to help people understand who they are so that everything that they do reflects from that, who you are on the inside. The majority of my other work that's not necessarily creatively based is kind of trauma based. I help women identify traumas and triggers and process through them so that they can thrive on the other side of them. So from that space, what I do is provide workshops, programs, and events. I do a live series. I also have a podcast. So a lot of that,
we're going to talk about that too. So
a lot of that work is healing people from the inside out and showing them that, I always say, if we show people our darkness, we can also show them the light, because they can see on the other side of that, that it's not, this isn't the end, whatever you're going through, you can always overcome. So
I love it. Yeah, no, that's great. So tell us a little bit about like from when you first began. You say you're an art student, right?
I was in undergrad. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us when you started this, when you started your platform.
Yeah, so I would say that it was in college. I graduated, I think, June 14th, and I started college like July 14th. I went immediately.
Wow.
Immediately into school, and I've always been kind of outspoken. And so teachers started to recognize it, admin started to recognize it, and they're like, hey, we need you to come speak at this event and talk about creativity and motivate the students and get them. And so I was 18
years,
starting my really like actually being paid to do speaking. And that evolved into working for the Fashion Institute and helping become a trainer for their public relations kind of community education department, and teaching people how to take stories, make them their own, and then retell them. And then that all kind of all the ebbs and flows, and you just kind of, you take what life gives you and you add your purpose and your passion to it, and then beautiful things happen. So that evolved into After breast cancer, I
Uh-huh.
started a nonprofit,
Yes.
and that really catapulted like the more speaking engagements and things like that. So
Wow. That's awesome.
yeah.
All right. So, Brenee, tell us about your growing pains in this endeavor. What are those that you've experienced?
Ooh, I have a great example actually.
Okay. Okay.
So when I first started trying to professionalize my passion, take it from a brand into a business, it was called Style Feast. So
Okay.
my Instagram, everything, shirts, everything was Style Feast. And even the book that I wrote was just getting ready to hit send to, publish it, and it was called
Wow.
Style Feast. And it wasn't working. The public, like, it wouldn't load and everything. It was just crazy. So I was like devastated.
Oh my God. Do you mean like the whole book wouldn't go
Yes,
and publish?
it would. Exactly. It was terrible.
Wait,
But
this is like self-published.
this is self-publishing.
Okay. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It was a hot mess. So my daughter's like, calm down. It's going to be okay. Everything happens for a reason. Literally, like 2 days later, I got a cease and desist saying, I am Style Feast. I trademarked this. Stop using Style Feast immediately, and I was devastated for about 4 or 5 days. And why this story ends up being beautiful is I was literally I'm sitting with my dad, I'm crying, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to publish this book. It's called Style Feast,
Yeah.
everything, all of the imagery was very like eating fashion and all the,
Wow.
it all came together. So my dad was like, but you're your brand. And I was like, boom, House of Antoinette. Let's make it French, Maison d'Antoinette. And so I grew. I feel like what the pain was, like, we get so attached to kind of these external things.
That's so true.
And we get married to it. But when you're a young entrepreneur, mentally not, or professionally young in that, like, you're not mature enough to recognize you need to professionalize all of this stuff. If you want that to be your name and nobody can touch it, then you need to make sure you trademark it. If you want to do, like, you have to allow yourself to go through things like that are those growing pains that end up birthing like some beautiful and amazing things. But yeah, Style Feast being taken from me was like,
that was crazy.
But then, a butterfly came.
Well, so that is a real growing pain. But good thing you hadn't although you had written a book, I'm like, good thing you had been selling a bunch of products. That's crazy. Right. The Inland Empire startup ecosystem industry is tremendously fragmented. A few top-tier hubs, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, are well covered by media, events, and data platforms. Finding reliable information relevant to startups or the tech industry in the Inland Empire is extremely difficult. As a result, startups can't scale fast enough. Investors are having a hard time finding the right deals, and corporates can't find the right companies to partner with for their innovation activities. Startempire Wire, the leading Inland Empire startup publication, is providing the Inland Empire startup ecosystem with the most accurate, engaging business and financial data, events, and news. Our reach of entrepreneurs, C-level executives, angels, VC investors, startup employees, key management at innovative corporates, and big tech is the solution for your B2B or B2C needs. As we build out our platform, we're looking for partners. This is your opportunity to get in on the ground level. If you're looking to align yourself with the local and growing startup and tech ecosystem of the Inland Empire, we have created the platform to get your name noticed and the opportunity for you to grow the recognition of your brand. Contact us today for availability and pricing options. We look forward to our partnership with you.
But so I rebranded, but yeah.
House of Antoinette is very fitting,
Yes. And I think it's a little, it actually is more broad because I do so many things. It's like everything that I do is a part of my house.
Yes.
So, it fits.
I love it. Well, so when a person first encounters your brand, what is one of the first things that they're gonna understand about it?
That there is, and this is kind of something we talked about off camera, but there's power in transparency and vulnerability.
Yeah.
What I've been able to do is create community through visuals, right? Like,
Yes.
people come for the colors and the sparkles, but they stay for the transparency and the vulnerability. I have no problem sharing some of those dark times to encourage people that it won't always be that way. So I would hope that if anybody encounters my brand, that comes across true, the rings true.
I would say yes. I would say that it's part of, just what you're, I've only experienced what you do from the fourth sector side. So,
Right.
A lot of it is like, okay, I follow you on Instagram and I see you post some stuff and I'm like, oh, Brenee is really doing this. Yeah. So we're going to share the Instagram and all this stuff later as well too. So tell us about like where you're at with what you're doing with House of Antoinette and, current needs. Like what's the stage that you're in? Are you've launched, where are you at?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, launched.
Yeah, of course.
in 2019, October 2019, I want to say. And I consistently do events, workshops, different things like that. I would say that my needs right now, I've actually kind of been in a silent season for a little bit to really hear what it is that I need. The ideas never stop coming,
Yeah.
And as a young-minded entrepreneur back in the day, any idea that I had, I'm like, I do it.
Yeah.
I don't do
right,
customer
right.
discovery. I don't see if this is actually something people are going to buy. I'm like, oh, this is a good idea. I'll do that.
I'm not even going to test the market. I'm just going.
Yeah, nope.
No, I understand.
They will come, and they don't sometimes. Sometimes they don't come, y'all.
That's true. That's true.
So right now I have an amazing business coach. I have amazing consultants that I work with. Right now, what I'm looking for is like-minded individuals and corporations that are interested in amplifying the voice of the brand, essentially. Okay. I guess I do a lot of pouring into the ladies and the youth that I work with, and I need people to kind of back me up and elevate the events that I'm trying to do. And we have an amazing space at Fourth Sector, so I do use the space sometimes. But
yes,
there are other things that I'm trying to do within the brand, and so having collaborations and collaborative partners is kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So you sent me was that your press kit today as well too, so people can request that from you.
Yes, yeah, and I've had an opportunity to work with some amazing people, as you've seen, some really amazing companies. And
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You want to mention any of that?
Yeah, so through my nonprofit work, I've worked with a bunch of people. Smashbox Studios and Susan G. Komen did a collaborative event that I was a part of. American Cancer Society. I've gotten to work with some amazing Black sororities, the Deltas, the AKAs. I've done quite a bit of work with Cal Poly Pomona. And a few years ago, the shops at Chino Hills gave me a storefront.
That's freaking awesome, like a pop-up?
Yeah. And yes. So I've worked with some really amazing people and done some amazing things. And I think it's just time to amplify and, really elevate and move forward. More than I can do by myself,
Yeah, so you want to multiply, right? Multiply what's going on. Yeah, I know that's okay. So that is the stage that Brenee is in right now. What would you say are two of your short-term goals? I'm looking at questions over here.
Yeah, sure. Two of my short-term goals. may not necessarily be tied to a dollar amount or different things like that, but one of them is to return to kind of a space of fearlessness. When I first started kind of entrepreneurship and with my nonprofit, I was not afraid of no.
Right.
I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just like, you want to help? You want to work together? You want to do this? You want to do this?
Yes.
And I think, after a while, that imposter syndrome kind of sets in, and I've dimmed a little bit of that light. I don't have as much fearlessness as I used to have. So I definitely, one of my short-term goals is to just continue to tap back into being fearless and not being afraid of no. Exactly. And just let's work together.
Yeah, because that's a real part of growth too. As an entrepreneur, you gotta hear no. And sometimes it's hard to hear it, but you're like, man, okay, next,
Yeah, next, exactly.
Next. Yeah. That's a good one. Okay, so what are those goals that you have coming up for like speaking engagements or anything in that realm?
Absolutely. So I have a couple of goals. One of them is I'm bringing back my Diamond Life Luncheon, and that's something that I do annually. It's kind of centered around Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so it happens always in October.
Okay.
And I try during that luncheon to, the things I always try to do, educate, empower, encourage. But, we talk about health, but we also talk about financial literacy. We talk about, emotional growth, and just kind of being a cumulatively good human is kind of the focus. And so the last few times I've only been able to, on my own, host between 20 and 40 ladies. And so this year I really want to beef that up and have about 150 ladies to be able to come to the luncheon and be blessed and be fed physically and emotionally,
Absolutely.
and I'm really looking for partners that want to come and share information. I have a huge heart for our Black and Brown communities and financial literacy. And so I want to have a component of that, talking with us through some financial components. So I want to double or triple my numbers this year for how many ladies I can accommodate for my luncheon is one of the goals.
So those partners are going to be a big, really important factor, right?
Absolutely.
Any specific types of partners, like financial? You said a financial person, maybe?
Yes. We have a great relationship with Chase Bank. So actually next week I'll be reaching out to, to talk with them a little bit more about what I'm doing and seeing if there's a way to kind of collaborate. They also have a first-time home buyers program. And they have a commitment to kind of closing the racial wealth gap in the US. So that's a hopeful partner.
Yeah, they were at Future Fest.
Yes, those are my people. Yeah.
I remember Future Fest was awesome.
Thank you. And Future Fest, October 13th, coming up.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get that in too. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I also want to partner with brands that are, pamper ladies. So if there's any spas that are interested in collaborating, self-care is huge right now. We have a lot on our brains. I do have some amazing therapists in my network, so I'll be partnering with them.
You reached out to Glenn Ivy.
I have,
right?
I have not reached out to Glenn Ivy yet.
I live like 3 miles away from them. I walk by there all the time. So.
I love it. Go to the grotto.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm anybody that's interested in amplifying the vision that kind of aligns with, serving the purpose of empowering women, and especially, again, I have a passion for our women of color.
Healing trauma as well. Yeah.
Yes. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so give us your long-term goals, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Where do you see House of Antoinette in 3 years?
Whew. In 3 years, I definitely would. I forgot to mention that I also host a women's conference in January. So,
Okay.
in in 3 years, I would like
Yes.
to see the January women's conference growing and doubling, tripling in size, and being able to
Right.
do that in a larger space, more on a convention center kind of level.
Yes.
And same thing with the Diamond Life Luncheon, for sure, growing those things. I would say
So
my
maybe just
5 year goal.
events all around. You want them to be popping out at the seams a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. In 3 years, and then
Yes.
5 years.
In 5 years, one of the things that I want to, that's been on my heart since I was very young, was I want to pivot or add an arm to the House of Antoinette that gives back to the community in a different kind of way. And so I want to be able to provide education for young parents, resources, whether that be strollers, diapers, car seats. So
Yeah.
that's one aspect of the House of Antoinette. I also want to be able to provide workforce development and programming for homeless and underserved, underprivileged, so that and the people who are recently released from being incarcerated. I want to have programming to be able to help get them back assimilated into society. So I want to grow the House of Antoinette to really be a house that can
I like it.
help people thrive. And that will continue to be my 10-year goal for sure, is increasing the territory and the vision. Absolutely.
Okay, that's very cool. So give us info about your startup online. Where can they find you? Online, offline, and then run us through the gauntlet of all the stuff that's available, kind of events wise, coming up too.
Sure, absolutely. So the website right now is under construction, but it's very long. So we'll have to put that in the show notes.
Okay, yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
MissAntoinette.com.
Oh my God.
I won't spell it out.
Okay.
But you can always find me. You can always find me on Instagram, and that is at With Love Brenee. So it's WITHLUV. B as in boy, RENEE. And I do my live series on there, and I do have a link tree there on my Instagram, so you can always click and find this interview and all of the events and everything. The next event that I will be having is called Unprocessed, and it is a 1-day workshop. So I'll be taking what is the processed program, that 6 weeks, and condensing it down into a day of immersive, intimate discussion and self-work and group therapy kind of.
Nice. And
that's going to be happening actually at 4th Sector on July 30th. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'll have the link in my bio, and you guys can register for that as well.
What audience is that hitting? Is that hitting the women, or who is that hitting?
It primarily is hitting the women.
Yes.
I actually probably have 2 guys that have ever come to.
Really?
Because it just doesn't seem to be my audience, but I'm a
open
strong supporter of men's health. Yes, men's mental health, and talking through and working with. And I work with quite a few men offline, just not necessarily at events. But y'all, guys, you're welcome. So come on out.
Come on out. All right. And tell us the date again.
That's July 30th at 4th Sector, 30th. Ontario. Yeah.
All right. So you guys heard it here. Find Brenee online, With Love Brenee, on Instagram, and then her link tree is there. You can access everything that she's talking about there. And I want you guys to follow her and support her. If you are a partner, possibly, then make sure you connect with her. This is what we're here for. We're connecting people. So once again, Brenee, I really want to thank you for coming on the Founders Podcast. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And
Thank you.
tell us a little bit more also, though, just one more last thing. What is this? What's Future Fest again as well?
Sure. Yeah. So Future Fest is our kind of collaborative event where we at Fourth Sector bring together speakers, tech, innovation, founders like yourself and those of you, many of you watching today. We bring all of that kind of together to a mashup to do professional development, but also some networking and creative exercises. And this October 13th, we will be having Future Fest at Cal State San Bernardino. We've got some dope stuff that we're going to be kind of rolling out that we haven't quite announced yet.
Yes, yes.
But save the date, October 13th. It is a free event, and we'd love for everybody. If you are a founder, a founder, or you don't have to be a founder to come, but there will be a lot of entrepreneurs in the building. There will be a lot of creatives and just people who are interested in growing their own network in their communities. So it's a really cool event. This will be our third Future Fest, so we're very excited.
Yeah, so I'm excited about Future Fest because I love it. It's a full day, so you should be coming out for that as well. But the reason we mentioned that is because Brenee is in charge of always setting up such an awesome lineup there as well. She does a great job organizing these things. So make sure you guys are contacting her. Once again, thanks for tuning in to the Founders Podcast. Thanks for coming on, Brenee. And we will see you guys next time. Peace.